Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Maryann Petri. You can find me, my books, and blogs on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com. Now, I have a return guest and two other guests as well. I have Theo Chino. He was last on season 5, episode 128, 143, 164, and 187, where we talked about judging while under the influence. I also have Dr. Beri on and Mr. Michael Caruso. And we're going to talk about all the things we can be thankful for due to family court, and especially Stump versus Sparkman, where Judge Byron White stated a judge will not be deprived of immunity because the action he took was in error, was done maliciously, or was in excess of his authority. Rather, he will be subject to liability only when he has acted in the clear absence of all jurisdiction. Wow. Hey, Theo, they're never in their jurisdiction, right?
Well, that's something to be thankful for if you're the judge and you can just do whatever you want.
Well, I'm
Wouldn't that be
grateful.
something to be thankful for?
Grateful he wasn't my judge.
I'm kind of thankful that I didn't know about judicial immunity when I first entered the legal realm. And because I think I'd be scared out of my wits. I think it would take me back to a time where maybe I was in a coliseum with a bunch of people screaming, and there was this purple dressed up emperor with his hand out, and he's ready to go like this if my performance
Yeah.
displeased him. Total immunity, absolute immunity, even in regard to malicious acts. What could possibly go wrong? Let's go to one of our first time callers and longtime listeners, Michael Caruso. What could possibly go wrong if a judge is given total immunity, even from illegal and malicious acts?
I ran it through the AI, and AI came up with some stuff, but I personally and the rest of the brain trust couldn't see one possible thing that could go wrong with giving one human being complete and total absolute authority over people's lives who which they know little to nothing about. Yeah, great system. I have to say, you did steal a couple of my lines, Theo, about the emperor in purple with the thumbs down, residing over the fate of another. But I, too, in addition to being thankful for so many things, am thankful that I actually did not realize that judges had absolute immunity, as well as the other corporate actors in family court. Because had I known, I don't know what I would have done. I don't even know if I'd have had the courage to show up to the hearing in which, without committing a single criminal act in the first 50 years on the planet, without being charged with a single criminal act, and being a law-abiding, tax-paying citizen, I lost my child, my home, and my gun rights, all by a judge who was brand spanking new and did not even know what the implications of putting a permanent protection order in place would have over the father and son's relationship. So that is one of many thanks I give today.
And how long did your son go without seeing his father, Mr. Caruso?
Well, I want to set context. At his birth, which he was a C-section, he was a premature baby by 6 weeks old, and his mother had preeclampsia, and he was an IVF baby. And so he spent a month in the NICU. I was his first skin to skin, his first bottle, his first diaper, and a significant role in his life, at least the first few days of his birth. Very well connected, never had been apart from him for more than a few days, whether it was travel or whether he had gone somewhere. But basically, we were connected at the hip. Picked him up from daycare every day, took him to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, little tiny league soccer practice. So I was and we just started TPOL. I was very, very well connected to my child. So it wasn't as if, I was a absentee deadbeat father. But with the judge's ruling, the errors that he had committed, the barriers of entry that he put in place to be in my son's life. Plus, my attorney and my ex-wife's tomfoolery that they played cost me 95 days with my son. So I went full 95 days without seeing my son, which is interesting because there's a case on Netflix called Take Care of Maya, where the mother went 89 days without seeing her daughter and committed suicide. So I am grateful that I didn't have to go 96 days without seeing my son. So today I would like to give many thanks for only going 95 days without seeing him, not 96.
There you go. That's the spirit of Thanksgiving. See? And would you like to call out the judge and thank him for not making it 96, or would you like to leave his name off of this?
Yes. I would be remiss if I didn't call out the white privileged Benjamin Figa, who, despite having an unimpressive resume in which he never held a position more than 2 or 3 years at any job, was never promoted, never had any award-winning accolades or any cases in which he did anything of note. Also worth noting, he shares the same religion and political leanings as our Governor Paulus, who is both Jewish and all left, was awarded a judgeship, appointed rather, not voted, certainly didn't pass any tests. And I think I was literally there his first or second week of appointment. And I will say Judge Figa, Ben Figa, has showed a pattern of unconstitutional and unfair rulings that are very one-sided. And this is my own anecdotal experience, because I certainly know women who've been on the other side of the equation, but this is a judge who is clearly anti-veteran, which I am, anti-male, which I am, cisgender male at that, and rules only one way. Like, he literally never, in the entire year that I had, ruled in my favor on anything, including when I provided 2 clean drug tests to prove that I was falsely accused of using any illegal drugs, which cleared me to 6 to 9 months. Still did not remove any of the restrictions. Moreover, he did not punish the other side for falsely accusing me. However, Mr. Theo Chino, in the spirit of this being a call of thanks, I give many thanks to the fact that he only required me to take 1 drug test every quarter rather than every month, saving me basically 66% on the superfluous charges incurred for drug testing. So again, that would be my third thanks of the day.
Right, because if he went overboard, I mean, he has total immunity, so there'd be no repercussions. So we also have another caller, another first-time caller, long-time listener, Dr. Beri. Would you like to share what you're thankful for in terms of family court?
Oh my God, where do I start? With all the things that I have to be thankful for, one of the first things I think is, I'm thankful that I don't have more than 450 court dates as yet. I'm pretty close. So from 2013 to today, there are almost 450 court dates that have been registered and logged. While I'm thinking, hey, I'm so grateful that that the professionalism, such like we take in the medical world and say we do no harm to our patients, but it just doesn't seem like that with the judicial family law side.
But you are grateful that it's not more than 450, because it could be more.
Yeah, could be more, right? And right now it's pretty close. And I'm also thankful that I may be in my home for another 30 days or 45 days. Maybe I'm going to get to see Christmas in my house again before they try and take it away from me again for the second time or the third time over falsified child support payments that apparently are also a tax shelter. I'm just learning and loving everything. And I'm also thankful of the word that I live by, integrity. Anybody wonder what the actual meaning of the word integrity is, or what they think the definition is? Personally, I take it like, doing my job as best I can when nobody's looking. So I don't know how that fits with you guys.
Yeah,
I
Maryann, what do
concur
you
with
have
that
to?
definition.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, I like that, you know. Maryann, what do you have to be thankful for? Do you have some notes we wanted to cover too?
Oh, well, sure. I mean, I'm grateful that the judges that caused my heart attack didn't cause a stroke where I would be incapacitated, laying in a nursing home, hearing other patients scream their heads off for 12 hours and have to wait for someone to clean me up. So I'm very grateful that it was heart attack to the LAD with 3 stents placed, and it could have been much worse, and that is exactly what the cardiologist told me. So I'm very grateful for that.
You might also be grateful that you didn't end up the way, and may he rest in peace, Leon Koziel ended up.
Mhm.
He was a warrior who was a lawyer who believed in integrity, ethics, and who had interacted with the family courts in his state. And he didn't make it past 65. So I guess he could be grateful that he doesn't have to pay taxes anymore.
Right.
But also, yeah, I'm sorry, Leon Koziel, the author of Whistleblower in Paris. Um, I guess we can be thankful, some of us that can still see our children or that are still alive to see our children have a chance to rekindle that relationship with our children for however long we're apart. Unlike Leon, from what I understand, who never got the chance to tell his daughters face to face how much he loves them.
Mhm.
So we can be
You know, I'd
thankful
like
that didn't end sad
I,
like
I
that for us. Dr. Barry, go ahead.
I mean, I'd like to just, you know, I'm very thankful. I'm learning some really amazing things, and what I'd like to be thankful for is if everybody who pays taxes learns that whether you have kids or no kids, or you're married or single, your taxes go into a Title 4D, I guess, you know, government funded program that actually causes or helps the families break up. Um, I would be most thankful when people realize what's kind of going on and there's a change made. And hardworking Americans are not losing their families and lives in something that is they don't even know or understand.
You know, you just made me think about how I'm thankful that I always thought maybe I didn't have what it took to be a leader. Because if you would ask me if I'd want to be a family court judge and have the power, you know, immunity. So, number one, I can't get in any trouble no matter how bad I mess it up, even if I decide to be mean and malicious towards somebody. Um, but I'd be like, I can't mess somebody's family up like that. I'm too afraid to do it. I just don't have what it takes to be up there. Well, now I just found out about Title 4D not too long ago myself, and I realized something. Oh, see, had I known that all that extra money was flowing in that encouraged me to mess people's families up, maybe, nah, I still wouldn't be okay with it.
But
But I
I'm
guess I
sure
could be thankful that I know I'm not cut out for it.
but I'm sure the judges are grateful for Title 40 funding because that contributes to their pension funds.
Yes. Yes, I bet you they're very grateful for that when they retire. Now, unfortunately, there's a judge out by you that didn't get to enjoy his pension for very long. Who was that?
Well, that was Judge Robert Sambrook, and apparently he had been sick while running my case into the ground. And now he's answering to a higher God. And I'm sure that didn't go well for him because I'm sure he's burning in hell right now.
I wonder how it went for him when he showed up in front of those pearly gates and told whoever he's got to get past, "Hey, I have immunity. Let me through." You think that worked?
Not with God.
I don't think so. Yeah. So, you know, now I'm also grateful that, you know, if you happen to believe in Jesus, anybody can be forgiven. But
N-
I think they'd be like, hey, you need to leave your attitude and your immunity at the door and come on in and be like the rest of us. And I don't know if Judge Sambrook would be okay with leaving all that behind. I think
No,
he'd rather go someplace warmer and keep that stuff.
right.
Maybe.
There has to be atonement. Whatever you did, I was just watching Scrooge. Whatever you did in this lifetime will carry on into the next lifetime. And if he behaved like that, destroying families and my children, I'm sure you're just not automatically forgiven because Jesus loves you. No, 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 no. You have to still atone for what you did to other people. And I know he is.
Michael, Dr. Beri, anything else you got to be grateful for?
Well, I'd like to sleep at night, and I'm grateful for even the little sleep I get because, guilt is one thing that prevents people from sleeping. And you could say what you want. The human subconscious is very powerful. And I would say I am thankful for having guilt-free sleep.
Michael?
Well, mine is not as kind or as virtuous as Dr. Beri's, and I hope people hear this and know that I am truly grateful for this because I have listened to. So Theo and I connected October of last year after Pedro Argate, a man who's accused of killing a family court judge after the family court judge ruled to have him removed from his home
Judge
and his
Wilkinson.
children for 2 years. Yes, with
Yep.
no mental health support, no communication with his family, and basically no door or window to get back in. And keeping in mind, Mr. Argate was a 49-year-old male. I believe he was college educated. I know he had no criminal past, yet they imposed the maximum penalty and provided no support or window of opportunity to get back in. Since then, Theo and I have connected and I've probably listened to 2, maybe 3 dozen family court stories. And I don't know one person that has it better off than I do. So I certainly don't like hearing stories that are worse than mine, but I'm certainly grateful that as bad as my situation has been, I've never met anyone who's in a better position than I am. So I am truly grateful for that. And I am truly grateful that life's getting better. But yeah, that was kind of like my big present under the tree of what I'm most grateful for. I certainly, again, don't like hearing stories that are worse than mine, but I've never heard any that's better than mine. So for that, I am truly grateful.
Well, I'm truly grateful. I'm truly grateful that my current husband was forced to pay my child support on kids that weren't even his. I'm grateful that he made that kind of money and was forced to do that because I was unable to after my heart attack. I'm grateful for my current husband.
Well, they were able to cross the fence and pull someone who had nothing to do with it into the fray.
I think we should be grateful. Yeah, I mean, we should be grateful that maybe after experiencing family court, that they've made real adults of us because we used to believe in the F word, and I mean fair, and we used to believe that we had rights,
right?
And they woke us up. They're like, no, you don't have rights. No, you think this is America? No, it's not. We can do whatever we want to you. I'm also thankful I'm not one of the people that I talked to who reached out for my expertise and my advice that was charged $70,000 in 7 weeks by her own predatory family law experts. I'm grateful that I'm not another person in Colorado who paid $1.6 million to 10 different predatory law firms spread out over 3 states that kept on stringing her along, even though there were no dead bodies, like in every good episode of Columbo, which I love. And there were no blown up buildings like in Die Hard. $1.6 million in legal fees. And guess what? The person that was awarded full custody or mostly custody, I think it was full custody, allows that mother who had to pay $1.6 million in private courts. I'm very thankful I never ran into private judges and private courts. That person just dumps the child off to that mother after all of that fighting to prove that that mother was incompetent. So I'm grateful that didn't happen to me because it could have.
I'm grateful that I didn't have a guardian ad litem in my case because I saw it going that way. They were kind of steering it. So what I did was I found out who all the guardian ad litems were in the city. And I went to every one of them. And I took gambles because, they've got consultation fees, and one of them could have been $375. So I went to each one of them and I told them the sob story of my family court case. And they were like, "Oh, I don't want to take the case. I'm not taking the case." And this other female attorney, her consultation fee was $375. And I gave her the sob story. She just said, "Stop, stop. No, I can't get involved in this. I'm not even going to charge you the consultation fee." And so therefore, I created a conflict of interest. So I'm grateful I was able to do that.
Thank goodness. You know, if we could only pay them to stay away from our families, I
Mhm.
think everybody's families would be a lot better off.
Mhm.
I'm also grateful that I'm not the guy who got tased by the police when the police were that basically a false police report was called in on him by his soon to be ex. And then he sued the police, proved that that was a wrongful arrest and that they had gone overboard. And then
Mm.
later on gets the money snatched up by the person who called the police on him falsely. Ouch.
And how does this happen?
I'm glad I'm not this guy.
Oh, that's just terrible.
Think about what happens to somebody's brain and their soul when they're abused so unjustly
Mhm.
in what you believe is a civilized country with laws. Think about the damage that that does to someone's psyche. So I think everybody who's gone through family court, although they have scars and everything else, I guess we could be thankful that our lives are so much more interesting,
Right.
thought provoking now.
Tell me about the fellow we were talking earlier about. He was thrown in jail for 5 months and 29 days
Oh,
to
I almost
avoid
forgot.
to avoid a jury trial.
Yeah. You know, we can all be grateful. I think all of us on this call can be grateful that we weren't thrown in jail for 5 months and 29 days. Because, yeah, had it been one more day, the judge would have had some explaining to do, as Desi Arnaz used to say, Ricky Ricardo. So basically, yes, we could have been him. And then even better was when the judge pulled him out halfway through at about 3 months into it, the judge said, "How are you liking jail?" And he goes, "I'm liking it great. I'm actually writing up court motions and different lawsuits against you, Your Honor." And the judge goes, "Well, guess what? I just decided just here and now that you'll only have to go to jail on the weekends. During the week, you'll have to be out on the street, fending for yourself, feeding yourself, finding a place to stay, and looking for a job so that you can not be in
Oh.
contempt of court orders." Aren't we all glad we're not him?
Well, you know, when I was in prison for non-support, I was grateful the judge let me have work, what's it called? Work release when they let you, okay. And I was told that it would show Judge Kelly that I was trying to cooperate. And I said to the counselor that was in that pod, I said, I'm physically not able to drive. I don't have a car here, and I shouldn't be behind the wheel because they're not giving me my prescribed medications, which is a human rights violation. So I am not comfortable behind the wheel. And he just stared at me. So I'm grateful that she tried to give me work release so I could prove to her that I'm cooperating.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
I bet you all of these judges that we're talking about must be really, I bet you when they're carving up their turkey and they go around the table thanking everybody, just stating all their thanks out loud. I bet you that special superpower, that super species entitled immunity must be really something they must be grateful for because just imagine the heap of trouble they'd be in until they end up like Judge Sambrook.
Yeah,
where they really have to answer for what they did, and their immunity doesn't mean anything there.
not anymore. There's a God.
Amen.
Oh, well, I'm just grateful, as we were talking earlier about not going to jail over sending a text message. What's that all about, Theo?
Oh, so there's a
The
guy I
rabbi?
know, and he might, well, there was the rabbi and somebody else who may or may not know this story, who might want to tell it better. But there was text message, and then he gets a phone call from the police, and the police. Now, you know what? You got to really love this. Thank goodness that the police don't have to tell you the truth while they're questioning you. Yet, if they catch you lying to them, that's like, what is it? Obstructing some sort of
Ob-
investigation or something like that?
Obstructing justice.
Obstructing justice. So they call this guy and they say, "Hey, there's a warrant out for your arrest." And the guy says, "Really?" He's like, "Can I call my lawyer?" "Sure, you can." And for days, they were trying to look for this warrant that didn't exist. But then he finally negotiated his surrender, went and turned himself in, was in jail for a few days. And I'm grateful I'm not this guy. He came out with a staph infection.
Oh, no.
And then, as he's about to be released on bail, see, in Illinois, we can't be thankful there's bail anymore if you can afford it, because there is no bail anymore. But in the state this guy was being let loose in, he at the moment was glad he wasn't two other guys that were chained to the wall who were accused of carjacking and were from another country and could not explain where they how they fed themselves, where they lived for the last year. He's like, thank goodness I'm not those two. And then he finds out that his bail was 3 times as high as each one of theirs was. So then he wasn't grateful he was him, but he was grateful he had the money to pay for it. And I'm sure the magistrate in charge of those proceedings was grateful that somebody who could afford to pay 3 grand versus a grand was in front of them, because the county's got to make money.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
they're grateful for that too.
Right, and at taxpayers' expense. And, what about the poor person that paid $1 million in child support, but was still called a deadbeat dad?
I'm glad I'm not that guy. Turns
Yeah.
out that that guy has 2 kids, and I think they might even weigh less than, let's say, my kids. And yeah, costs apparently 8, maybe even 9 times as much to feed his children as it costs to feed mine.
Mhm.
And he paid over $1 million, and he's still being hunted down and being called a deadbeat and being threatened with being in contempt of court orders. And because you can't have debtor's prison anymore, we should be thankful for that, right?
Uh,
But family court says, hold my gavel. Here comes my immunity. If you don't pay a lawyer's bill, if you don't pay a guardian ad litem's bill, if you don't pay someone who is technically suing you, if you don't pay their lawyer's bill according to the judge's ruling, that could be construed as being in contempt of court, and you
Even
could go to jail.
even though it's unconstitutional to be forced to pay attorney fees, which is extortion. And we should be grateful that there's a constitution that these judges just don't adhere to. In fact, they use it as toilet paper.
Well, you know what? We should be grateful that we don't have to read that big long thing with all those squiggly lines on
Right.
it. You know, that's just
Uh,
too much reading. I
Yeah,
mean, we don't have to read it anymore because it really doesn't matter, does it?
right.
It's just some old parchment. It's ready to fall apart anyway. So thank goodness we don't need to read that or need that thing anymore.
Well, I'm grateful for the judge that screamed at an attorney, "I don't have to follow the Constitution." I'm glad that wasn't my judge.
Well, you know who I'm grateful for is Judge Mary Perry out in Las Vegas for really just letting it fly. showing everybody what they really are.
Mhm.
Because if you're walking into the emperor's court, and if you displease them in any way, they can say, off with his head, off with their head, have them thrown in chains, have them crucified. And it's kind of nice to know that you're walking in front of somebody who really, there are no repercussions to their actions on you, versus walking in there and believing that you actually have rights against this person. I'm also grateful to a guy named Patrick, who is local out here, who walks up to these judges, calls them by their first names. And when they say, you will address me as your honor, he's like, I will not address you as your honor, Jill. Your name is Jill, and I'm going to call you Jill. And I'm like, glad I didn't do that. But I actually was thankful to see that the judge actually did not go ballistic on him, because I believe the judge had sensed that he wanted to be put away because he wanted to stop being homeless. He needed three cots. I'm sorry, three hots and a cot.
Mhm.
So the judge is like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not. See, that's the best part about it all. The law doesn't need to be applied evenly at all. It's
And
just all about punishment and retribution,
I'm
kind
sure
of
the
like Old
judges,
Testament.
yeah, the judges are grateful for that when they're sitting around carving up the turkey, thinking about who they're gonna carve up next following day or following week.
Wow. Yeah. And then think about all that stress, everybody who's on this call, of being a parent day in and day out. And then just having some stranger come up and relieve you of a certain percentage of that day-to-day stress. And in
Mhm.
exchange, just ordering you to send in some money to this state disbursement unit that sends a distress signal up to the federal gods for Title 4D money to flow into their local little,
No, kit and caboodle.
yeah, I guess, to their local cartel, their local branch of the cartel. And then some of the money gets funneled over to the payee. I mean, thank goodness that you don't have to be burdened with being a parent 100% of the time, unless maybe that supreme being with the superpower of immunity decides to punish you by making you a full-time parent all by yourself,
Mhm.
even though there's another parent who's perfectly fine and willing to help.
Definitely. Oh, and I had a mom that tried calling in, and she said she's grateful for court clerks admitting they don't maintain financial records, so the rulings are not enforceable.
Whoa. So you pay all that money and all this money for all these lawyers. You get these orders and you go, this means something. I have something concrete finally. Not enforceable. Wow.
Yeah.
So much to be grateful for. So, for those of you out there who are watching this, you're not just watching this because you have nothing better to do. You've probably been bit by the family court bar mob, and you may be spending Thanksgiving alone. I want you to drop your comments in and share what you do to kind of get through the holidays, and kind of help us. I'm grateful for all the great people that I met, all the good, loving parents, thanks to this ordeal that we've been put through. I mean, this is Sheriff of Nottingham style abuse of justice,
Mhm.
right? There's nobody's watching on this little local level here. So I'm also grateful that attorneys overcharge the living heck out of their clients. Do you know why? Because I am working on ways and helping these people get their money back.
And I'm
And
grateful
it
to
is,
you for that.
thank you. And it's happened. And we're working on ways to make it happen more consistently and more easily. We want to partner with these attorneys, and we want them someday to be grateful for us coming into their lives and teaching them how to actually work for a living.
And to have integrity when billing
And maybe they'll sleep better at night.
instead of
Right, Dr.
drinking.
Barry?
You are 100% correct, man. You think
Yep.
it's possible?
And Yep. Any thoughts to cap it off? We're almost at the hour mark, I think.
Well, happy Thanksgiving, guys. Grateful to be on the show.
It's great to have you on, Dr. Beri.
Grateful to have you on. And Theo, to your comment, I'm grateful I met all these people. I have more friends in my life that get it. Of course, I had other friends that got it as I was going through this, but I've gotten quite a great following of friends through all of this.
Yep.
Oh, and I am grateful for one other thing. The last attorney I had, his office was only 2 blocks away from the courthouse. So I was grateful I didn't have to drive and find some place to park. I could park in his parking lot and just walk right over with him. And it was like,
Now
oh,
that is real
worry about
gratitude.
paying for parking.
That's
Like put in the meters, we had to put money in the meters. And I'm just so glad. But when I went pro se, then I had to put money in the meter. So I wasn't too grateful for that.
You should have kept parking in his lot anyway.
Oh, I thought of that. Yes, I thought of that. And I was like so grateful that he torpedoed my case by sending me in with his underling. And as life rolls along, I see him in passing going back and forth from the courthouse, and I was a pro se. I'd say, boy, this guy's aging before my eyes. And wouldn't you know, with me asking God, you deal with him for torpedoing my case, he eventually died of a heart attack.
We're all going to go someday. What do we do while we're here? Do we mess up other people's families, or do we help other people's families? So I'm grateful for the opportunity to be the protagonist in the family stories, while I am blessed to be walking around on this earth thanks to these antagonists and these predators. So they gave us a golden opportunity, and I made some great friends.
Mhm.
And I thought I had lots of friends, and thanks to this experience, I really know who the people who really care about me are, and
Mhm.
who the people I thought cared about me that didn't. I'm glad I know. I'm very thankful for that as well too.
Anyone else?
No, like I said, I came out with my big one, but grateful that we have opportunity to come together and exercise our free speech, although we'll see how free it is after we post this, and looking forward to joining the next podcast with you fine people and maybe new guests.
Always, always. And everyone's always welcome back. Don't jump off. Oh, wait a minute. How can people reach you? Or do you want people to come through me and I can give you messages? Probably.
Dr. Beri,
Yeah,
Michael
that sounds good
Caruso.
to me.
Yep.
That sounds, I appreciate, having me on the show, and I love the gavel. The word, what it stands for, is just awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so glad I had you all on. Michael Caruso, Dr. Beri, and Theo Chino. Don't jump off. Slam the Gavel, the podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these courtrooms. I'm your host, Maryann Petri. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube. Please like and subscribe. Apple, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google, and other platforms even I don't know about. Again, feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. Totally. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice, happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Maryann. Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.